The upside-down planet. Once upon a time, in a part of space no telescope had ever seen, there was a planet that spun upside down. The clouds drifted below the ground, rivers flowed across the sky, and trees grew downward from the soil above. This planet was called Tip-Top. The creatures of Tip-Top had adapted to this topsy-turvy life perfectly. They walked on ceilings, slept in floating bubbles, and played upside-down hopscotch on clouds. They were cheerful, curious, and always up for something wonderfully weird. Among these creatures was a kid named Lilo. Lilo had big round eyes, stripy socks that reached his ears, and a brain that could never stop wondering. He had two best friends, Nib, a bouncing jellybean-shaped thinker who wore glasses, and Zaff, a robotic feather who could float, flap, and even hum lullabies. One day, the trio sat on the ceiling of Lilo's upside-down house, munching on gravity-proof popcorn that popped back into the bowl if it tried to escape. "I've been thinking," Lilo said, balancing a popcorn kernel on his nose, "what's below Tip-Top?" Nip blinked. "You mean, under the clouds? Under the upside-down trees?" Zaff buzzed nervously. "No one's ever looked. What if it's just endless down?" But Lilo had already pulled out a map drawn in invisible ink. "I've been planning," he said. "There's a myth about the Flipdoor." "The what door?" asked Nib. "The Flipdoor. A doorway said to be hidden in the upside-down mountains. If we find it, we might reach the other side of Tip-Top." Zaff's feathers fluttered. "That's crazy. What if we fall forever?" "Or," said Lilo, eyes sparkling, "what if we find something that flips our whole world?" Nib adjusted his glasses. "Okay. Let's do something completely untested and potentially upside-down dangerous." And just like that, they set off. They rode a bouncy-wheeled cart powered by pancake batter through cloud tunnels and backwards waterfalls. They met whispering windfish, got tickled by time-turning vines, and took a nap inside a floating bubble shaped like a giant teacup. Eventually, they reached the upside-down mountains, where rocks floated like balloons and echo birds repeated things before you said them. At the foot of the tallest floating peak, they found it, a door made of mirror glass, humming softly. "The Flipdoor," whispered Lilo. The door had no knob, no button, no handle, only a tiny question carved into its surface. "What happens when you flip your point of view?" They stared. "Maybe we answer it," said Nib. Zaff whispered, "Maybe we do something instead." Lilo grinned. "Let's flip." And he did a somersault. Nib did a backflip. Zaff spun like a frisbee and sang a song backward. The door blinked. Then opened. Inside was a glowing tunnel. It wasn't up. It wasn't down. It was sideways, slanty, slurpy. It made no sense. But they entered. They tumbled, giggled, floated, twisted. Colors swirled like melted crayons. Sounds went squizzle and wobble blop. And then, silence. They landed. Everything looked the same, but it wasn't. The clouds were now above the trees. The rivers flowed on the ground. And they were walking right side up. "We flipped," gasped Nib. Lilo ran to a puddle and looked at his reflection. "We didn't just flip the world. We flipped ourselves." Zaff buzzed in disbelief. "So this is what you call normal?" But Tip-Top wasn't gone. It was still there, on the other side. They could see it like a reflection in the sky, a mirror world above their heads. In this new world, Downright, as they named it, they met creatures who walked on their feet, used umbrellas for rain, and didn't even bounce when they jumped. At first, the trio felt clumsy. They missed floating spoons and upside-down roller coasters. But then, they discovered things they'd never known. Ice cream that melted down instead of up. Books that didn't fall apart unless you dropped them. Trains that zoomed on tracks instead of around your ankles. And sunsets. Oh, the sunsets! In Tip-Top, the sun glided beneath the clouds like a sleepy pancake. But here in Downright, it painted the sky in fire orange and cotton candy pink. They decided to stay a while. They taught the Downrighters how to bounce on ceiling beds. The Downrighters taught them how to whistle with grass and how to play hide and seek without floating into space. One night, while lying in the grass and watching both worlds shimmer, the upside-down Tip-Top above, and the right-side Downright below, Lilo said, "I think every world has something magical. You just have to be curious enough to flip." And that night, as the stars blinked in two directions and the moon smiled from both sides of the sky, they all fell asleep, dreaming of what other worlds might be waiting for someone brave enough to ask a strange question. Maybe one day they'd return to Tip-Top. Maybe one day they'd find another Flipdoor. But for now, the trio, Lilo, Nib, and Zaff, were exactly where they were meant to be, upside, downside, inside a story that had just begun. Good night, curious minds. Sleep tight. See you in the next adventure.